Yes, Sam.
Hey Joe, can you hear me?
I've got you, mate. How am I for sound?
Good, good. Let me rise. Okay, say something again.
You got me? All good?
Yeah, it's a little low, the sound. Um,
I'll try and speak. How about if I raise my voice a little bit? Maybe I'm,
that's good, that's good.
yeah, I'm guilty of whispering sometimes.
Yeah, but that's good, that's good.
How's the day over there, mate? Good start to it?
Yeah, good start. Busy, a lot of things to get done, but working on it. How
Yeah, it
about you?
seems like you are. Yeah, good here. Yeah, good here. Equally busy, but winding down. So I'm at the back end of my day now. So this is a
Ah,
nice
okay,
way to ease into the evening,
nice.
which is yeah, very welcomed. Yeah, you're. It seems like busy is your default position, so it's no surprise that you're. Even though you're just back home, I think from I think you said a month long shoot of some kind, you're still working in what
Yeah,
I guess is supposed to be downtime. Is that pretty common? It's always
yeah.
all
I
go.
mean, I mean, if you think about it, if you leave your home for a month, when you come back, all the things that you have to do from, paying the bills and doing the bare minimum. Um, Plus, I was on the road for a month doing a couple different things and as a photographer, you're not only working when you at the job, when you shoot, everything is nice and everything, but then when you get back, you need to work on the files, you need to process, you need to edit, you need to back up. So, it's like a never-ending cycle.
Yeah, no rest for the wicked, as we say.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it's fun.
Um, Yeah, you look like it kind of you look like you look pretty relaxed for a busy man. So it must be going well.
Yeah, I put this chair here to be relaxed, so we can, you know, all around this chaos, we can speak freely. It took so long for us to be able to do this, because I wanted to give it my 100%, so now, I'm 100% here.
I appreciate it, mate. I know it's been a conversation I've been keen to have for a long time, and I appreciate you not letting it slip through the cracks despite your schedule. Um, there must
I
be a
appreciate
million
it.
more things higher up the list than speaking to a stranger over the internet.
No,
So
no,
I
I was
really do
excited, man.
appreciate. Really, oh, that's good to hear. That's good to
I was
hear.
excited, yeah.
Um,
It was just really scheduling it. That's like my
yeah,
number one thing I have to deal with usually.
yeah. You need to get somebody handling your diary. That'll be one less thing on your plate.
Ah, you'd be nice. You'd be nice. But it's
um,
hard, because I work with a lot of athletes, and a lot of times you are at the mercy of their agendas. And sometimes they don't even know their agendas. So it's like it's always a moving target. So it's hard to like plan things out ahead.
does that come with any frustrations on your part, or are you kind of conditioned to those moving parts now? That's just a part of how you work.
I mean, there's no other option.
Yeah,
It can be frustrating at times. Um, but that goes with the job. Um, sometimes you have everything scheduled and it works perfectly, and sometimes by nobody's fault, things just change on the move, and sometimes you have to get on a plane the next day, or sometimes you are at a city waiting for someone and things change, and then you know it's a no go. But so far it's been good. Um, but it's like it's almost impossible to plan things too much ahead, you know.
I guess in some ways that comes with its benefits. You're more in the present, just dealing
Always.
with what is in front of you. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
definitely the advantages to that. Definitely the advantages to that. Um,
yeah.
you you alluded to the athletes that you work with, and your portfolio is just dripping with elite athletes from different sports. But I'm curious to learn how what we see now begun. Like rewind it
How
right
it
back, if you wouldn't mind.
how it started?
Yeah,
You mean shooting athletes or photography at all?
just the journey in general. So how do you get from what is the first step on your journey basically as a child? Like, are you picking up a camera that you found at home, or is it a kind of a more um winding route into the industry? Like, what got you to where you are now in shooting the elite athletes and traveling the world and things like this?
Okay, that's a long answer, but let's see if I can say it properly. Um, so I never really picked up a camera until I was maybe 19. Um, I was born and raised in Brazil, and then when I was 18, I moved to the US. And when I was here for a bit, I went to a friend's home, and he had like a digital camera, uh, one of the ones that had like a flop disk. That was like the memory card for it. And when I saw it for the first time, I got like it was almost like an addiction, like for some reason I don't know why. But I look at that thing and like I couldn't take my eyes off, like I couldn't think of anything else. Um, but it was more like a toy, I wasn't looking at it as like a camera or photography or anything. I just saw it as a cool toy or a cool thing that it was new, like it was one of the first ones that came out. So I was probably 19 at the time. So I saved up some money, and like 6 months later I bought one. And then I started taking pictures, on my own. Just whatever. Uh, I would take some pictures of myself. I would take pictures of my friends. I would take pictures of my surroundings. And at that time, I was living in the U.S., in Florida, and my parents, they still live in Brazil, so they were in Brazil, and I was taking pictures just to send to my parents, so they could see where I was, and this was 2001, so it was not like Instagram or YouTube. Anything was like a thing that people could see all over the place. So I was just sending them pictures of my life, basically. And when some of my friends they would see those pictures, they would ask me, "Oh, who's taking those pictures?" And I was like, "What do you mean who's taking the pictures? It's my picture." And they insisted, "Oh, someone's taking it for you, whatever." And I never understood why they were saying that. Um, because I had no knowledge of photography at all, like I didn't know what was a good picture, what was a bad picture. I didn't know any photographers. Like photography was was like a different world for me, it didn't really existed in my life. So, but then some of these friends they started asking me to take pictures for them, like of if they had like a side gig, or if they had like a child, birthday party, or things like that. But I never really wanted to do those because, you know, for me, photography was just not even a hobby. It was just, I was just playing, you know, I was just having fun. And, and I just wanted to shoot what I wanted to shoot, you know. It's kind of still the case. Um, but then, you know, sometimes you, you know, you have a good friend that asks you something and you want to do it for him. Sometimes, you know, you run out of favors. So, you know, I started doing a couple of things for other people, and you know, didn't think much about it. But then I don't remember exactly how, but one time we set up like a sports photo shoot, and when I did it, like the images came out like really good. Like when I saw it, I was like, wow, there's something here, you know, something made it special for me. So that's when I was like, okay, so maybe this can be a career or something. And that's when I really started to, you know, started to learn about the industry, started to look at, you know, other photographers. And at that time, I was working at a car wash, so my schedule was pretty tight. But one of the car wash customers, he was a retired photographer. His name is Jack Wild. He was an amazing photographer, amazing, amazing. And I don't remember how we got introduced to each other, and he found out that I liked photography, or how I learned that he was a photographer. But long story short, every time he went to the car wash, we would talk about photography. So we would spend like 5 minutes or so because I was working, you know. Um, Somebody would cover for me and I would go and talk to him. And, you know, he would say things like, you know, you need to work for somebody, you need to understand the industry, because like I was raw. I didn't know anything. Didn't even know what an assistant was. So, you know, I try to follow his advice. You know, wrote down all the photographer names that I could find in Florida. We're about, I don't know, 20, 50. And I call and email all of them and ask them to work for free. But nobody accepted. I went to a couple meetings. Most of them didn't reply or didn't answer the phone or said no thanks. And, you know, and that was it. Um, and, you know, we kept talking. I explained to him, and he said, oh, you should go to New York and this and that. And then 6 months later, after I tried to work for these photographers, I, um, I was on the computer looking at something, and then I saw like the yellow pages next to me. And I opened it up, and was like, oh, maybe I should call one photographer from here. And then I saw the name, Keith Douglas. It was just the name, maybe Keith Douglas Photography, and the phone number. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give it a try. So I called, and he picked up. And I wasn't expecting him to pick up, you know. So I didn't really know what to say. Um, so I was like, you know, I'm a photographer. I'm trying to work for somebody to learn the business, whatever. And we started talking, and he was like, and it was probably like a Thursday or Friday, and he was like, oh, come to my studio on Monday. And I was, you know, I was shocked. So, you know, I figured out my schedule at the car wash, and Monday I was there, you know. I saw him, showed him whatever photography, whatever photos I had at the time. And I was like, you know, I don't know anything about the industry, but I'm willing to learn and I can be helpful. can work for free. Okay, sounds good. I'll call you when, when there's an opportunity. And I was happy, because that was probably my first contact with a real working photographer. I mean, besides the guy I met at the car wash. And it didn't take too long, and he called me. It's like, oh, I have this job. There's gonna be 3 days. He was an architectural photographer. I mean, he still is. And we went to shoot like two towers, two apartment buildings, and we went to shoot, the interiors, the lobby, the surroundings, the exterior, everything. So it was kind of cool. And at the time, I mean, my English is still not perfect, but at the time it was even worse. And I didn't have any of the vocabulary in photography. So when I was there to help, I was like the third assistant. And he would ask me for things, the assistant would ask me for things, and I had no clue what the things were. So they would ask me for something, and I would bring like five things, just to be sure that I had something that was useful. And that's how I kind of started assisting and everything. Uh, and then little by little, I started working more with him. Then I started learning a little bit. And at the time before working with him, I was already shooting for a couple local businesses and things like that. Um, then I kept shooting those. Then I started shooting for some magazines. Um, then I started leaving the car wash little by little. So I used to work 7 days a week. Then I started working six, then five, then four, then three, then two, then 1 day a week. And then there was a point where I just left and was half of the time I was shooting, half of the time I was assisting. Um, then I kept doing that for a few years, and then in 2016, I started working with the Players Tribune. Um, Before that, I was shooting a lot for Under Armour, which sometimes would give me access to some athletes. And then also on my own, I would go shoot a couple of football matches, um, just to build a portfolio with athletes. Because I mean, I love shooting models, and it's fun. And sometimes, depending on what it is, I prefer to shoot models. But there's an authenticity and intensity in shooting athletes that really kind of attracts me, and I think it's cool. So that's why I started shooting more athletes. And then when I started at Players Tribune, then that's basically it took over, shooting like athletes 90 to 95% of the time. Um, and I did my first shoot with them was with Totti, the Italian football player. Everything went well. Then after that, we did a couple more athletes, and then I had some connections with athletes from previous things that I did. So I started helping them bringing athletes to the Players Tribune, and basically that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's some journey,
Yeah.
and quite impressive that you are entirely self-taught, that there's been no kind of formal education around it other than picking up a camera and shooting yourself, and then on-set experience and knowledge gaining. Just rewinding back to something you said as you started to peel away from the car wash, I thought it was interesting that you were working 7 days a week. and that is I guess a hint at a work ethic that is very present now in your photography career. So why? I mean, yeah, the 7 days is why no rest? Basically, is that just something that was instilled in you, and you just like to be busy, you like to work hard, and that's kind of carried you through favorably into your next career?
That's a good question. Um, I think the 7 days was a mix of opportunity with the sort of the immigrant mentality, because when you leave home and you go to another country to, to basically, in my experience, to basically start my life, um, I was helping my parents, I was sending money to them. I was trying to build a life, I had nothing, so I started fresh. And then at the car wash, um, I was, I started just washing cars, but then I started getting a little bit more opportunities. So I was like helping management, I was helping to greet people when they arrived, so I could make some commissions. So the pay for when it was a decent pay, you know. Um, so that was probably the reason, I did like to work, but it's not like I was passionate about working at the car wash. With photography, it just comes easier because I'm doing what I love. Uh, it's not like I'm doing what I love 100% of the time because there's a lot of things that aren't necessarily fun to do. But I don't that I just enjoy what I do. So even sometimes when I'm off, I'm thinking about ideas, I'm looking at things, I'm drawing ideas, and just really, really enjoying it. There are times where it's too much, and then like I need a vacation or something, which I never take, but I'm very, very much considering it now. Um, but
Considering a
you know,
vacation, you're getting closer. You're getting closer to one. If you're thinking
yeah,
about
yeah,
it, maybe next year, yeah?
yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I need a few days off. That's all. Um, yeah, but that's what happens when you really enjoy what you do. I guess I don't know how else to say it.
As you're spending more time on sets, as you begin assisting Keith Douglas, so these are days away from what had become the routine for you. You're spending days on shoots and things like that. Do you feel at home in that environment, or was there any kind of adjustment period for you as you're in a new environment, or did it just feel kind of, I'm meant to be here, this feels good?
Hmm,
And I
I
guess
don't
by
know.
extension, when you're not on set, sorry to cut you off, when you're not on set and then you're returning to the car wash, do you find that difficult at that point to shift back because you've got a glimpse of um of what could be and a career path that you could take, and it then becomes more difficult to kind of maintain the energy to go back to the day-to-day job that you've been doing?
Hmm. Well, the car wash was never easy, you know. Um, it was just never easy, never fun. Although the people that I worked with, we try to make it fun, but you know, it was basically you really earning your living, uh, dollar by dollar. Um, it had its good sides, but it was really hard work. Like I work hard now, but that was like very physical and also mental. Um, Whenever I was outside of it on the assisting and going to sets, to me, I didn't really think of anything. It was just excitement, you know. It was seeing new things and experiencing things for the first time, and and at that time, because I wanted to understand what photography was, like to become a photographer, what that was, everything was exciting, you know. So to me, it was just excitement. And then when I would go back to the car wash, I was like, okay, you need to keep doing this to pay the bills, but there's something more, you know. I think the hope that there was something more um, was enough for me to keep doing what I was doing and not worry about, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah, it does. Was there a sense of fear when you've thrown yourself fully into the photography career, leaving a degree of safety from the job you had, as you've peeled away slowly from 7 to 6, 5, 4 days, etc.? When you've got to that point where you're like, you know what, I'm going all in with photography. Yeah, are you feeling any unease at that point where you're like, this is the unknown, because there's no guarantees that come with that? Or was that immigrant mentality that you mentioned standing you in good stead for the kind of hustle that was about to come?
Ooh, it's a mix of things, you know. Um, it took me a while to be able to be able to make the same amount of money I was making at the car wash with photography. Um, it took long, but that's not what I was focused on at that time, you know. I basically forgot about money and I just wanted to you know um, to to bring myself into photography, you know, like really like dive into it. Um, it all I know is that I was happier, you know, um, and things were exciting, and I was learning, and I was having fun, and I was doing something that I really enjoyed. So for me, that's the only thing that I was really thinking about it. Nothing, nothing more than that, to be honest. Sorry, I did that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, it did. Um, what what sacrifices do you think you've made on the route to where you are in your career now? You make um sorry, you travel extensively, you work relentlessly. Um, does that come at the cost of like maintaining relationships, or the sense of kind of being rooted? I mean, you're at home now, first time in a month. No doubt you're going to be off soon, and I guess the career you've got will come with some costs like that. Do you feel that they are sacrifices that you've made in that respect?
Oh yeah, of course. Um, you know, friendships, family, um, commitments, birthday parties, um, having fun, days off, days that you can really just not think about anything. Um, but, it's all part of it. I think there's a lot of professions that they have the same, if not more, sacrifices. Um, so, for me, I feel him. Uh, but, I think really I don't see other option. I don't see another option in photography. Photography for you to be at a level of, living out of photography, at least in my opinion, it's not something easy. You can be good, you can be great, you can work hard, but there's so many photographers, so many good photographers, and the all it takes is a client wanted to use somebody else, and you have to start over. So I think those are the sacrifices, but I don't really see it as sacrifice. Besides, of course, a lot of times staying away from family, or sometimes, even not being able to be present at things with family, friends, and etc. I would say those are the most difficult parts of it, for sure. And the travel, of course. It takes a
Yeah.
toll on your body.
Yeah, I bet. Although I imagine it's kind of that blow is softened by the exciting places that you get to visit, right? It's worth the
Yeah.
it's worth the tiredness and the people that you get to work with, which I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
brings us back to Players Tribune and how you arrived there. Can you tell me about that? How the opportunity came about, and I guess what your feelings were around that.
Yeah, sure. Um, I used to work with I I used to do some work for Sports Illustrated, and I worked with the photo editor. His name is Nate Gordon. So I did a couple assignments with him while he was at Sports Illustrated, and then um, you know, then it had been a little while since I worked with him. Then I was in a building in New York because I was delivering some promo magazines that I did. So I went to this building that had like 3 or 4 people that I wanted to see, and some of them I had meetings, some of them I was just dropping it off. And one of the meetings, or better yet, one of the people that I wanted to deliver the thing was for Under Armour. And Under Armour was on the 15th floor of the building. And New York and those elevators so complicated. You would press the number 15 and he wouldn't allow you unless you had something. So my idea was, okay, I'm gonna go to 14 and I'm gonna take the stairs. So I did that, took the stairs, and it was locked on 15. So I was like, okay, they don't want me there. That's enough. Understood. Understood. So I go down on 14th and I'm on the hallway, and it's a long hallway, maybe the size, half of the size of a football pitch. And as I'm walking, I see on the other direction coming towards me somebody that looked like Nate Gordon. And as we get close, we were both looking at each other and it's like, Sam? Like, Nate? It's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, oh, I was just delivering some of my promos. I was like, oh, let me see. And he looks at it, he thinks it's cool. He's like, oh, you should come to the office. I'm working at the Players Tribune now. oh, awesome. Let's go. So I went to the office. I met a few people, and he said, "Oh, something comes up, I'll call you." And like almost literally a month later, he called me for the first assignment. That was Totti.
A chance meeting in a corridor.
Exactly.
Wow. So imagine that door opens to 15 and you're up there. You don't see Nate Gordon.
Probably not. Imagine if I don't try to go that way. If I just say, "Oh, I can't go to 15, that's it. But at least I
Yeah, you
try from the 14th floor.
yeah, all of those little decisions laddered up to that passing in the corridor at that time,
Yeah.
which led you to the opportunity that now takes you around the world shooting like the finest athletes in the game and beyond
Yeah.
football. Wow. There's a good lesson in there for just I guess taking chances and being a bit of a not being a nuisance, but I guess just kind of trying to get yourself in front of people, right? And you never know what's going to happen on the other side of just knocking on some doors. That's
Yeah, I have a friend of mine that works in business. He works in construction. And another friend that we're all friends that he has a distribution company, and they both say that, you know, business, you don't do it from home, you do it outside. You have to go out and you have to see people, you have to shake hands, you have to do things. And sometimes, it's not easy. Sometimes, I'm not very, uh, I'm more of a shy guy. So when it comes to do those things, sometimes I have to force myself. But like with photography, I have a good excuse, to go out and see people because I kind of have to. Um, but at least I have a purpose, to go out and just talk to someone that I wouldn't talk to normally. Not because I didn't want to talk to them, but just because I'm shy. I normally don't go greet people I don't know. Um, so yeah, that based on those advices from my friends, I kind of just knew that I had to go out there.
yeah, get out there and make something happen. That's
Yeah,
that's actually really good advice for me, which I'm going to take. So thank you, friends. Next time you see those, how
we'll
do
do.
you combat that shyness that you mentioned on set when you're shooting and you're one to one with a subject, or do you not feel that if you're in that environment?
Uh, When I'm with the camera, it's easy, um, because I'm on a mission, you know. It's like I need to get something done. I'm looking for something, or I have to do something specific. So that becomes really easy, you know. Um, like there's no fear, there's no shyness, there's no anything. I just almost naive. I just focus on what I'm looking at, and sometimes I need to direct or I need to ask, and sometimes people that are on set with me, they'll say, "Oh, how did you say that to that person?" Or I was like, "Oh, I just needed them to do this, and that's it." Um, but I think with the camera in front of me and with the mission, those things they kind of just go away.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I guess you're home to a degree in a figurative sense when you've got your camera in your hand. It's almost like like Thor's hammer or something like that, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But yeah,
Yeah.
like it just well, one, it gives me a purpose, um, and two, I just feel comfortable, feel comfortable, feel at home, or feel that's like what I'm supposed to be doing, I guess.
Do you still speak to Keith Douglas now?
Yeah, yeah. Every
What
now
does
and
he
then.
make? Yeah, okay. What does he make of your career and where you're at now from that young guy he met, that young guy that called him up out of the yellow pages? He's now
Yeah, I mean, he's
photographing Neymar and Pele and Anthony Joshua and all things like this.
yeah, I think he's really proud of me because he didn't see the years before, but he saw the whole evolution of it. So he must be proud when we speak. He's always asking, what's going on, what are the next things, what I've done, and he just loves it. I wish we talked more often, but it's part of the sacrifices too, of not being home so often that sometimes when I get home, I need to I have to look at what's in front of me, and take care of it. And then sometimes before I can go to do things I want, it's already time to fly again or to go somewhere.
Um, and I want to rewind a little bit further back to the friend's camera that you first laid eyes on. Do you have any contact with that person?
Very rarely, no. Very rarely.
I wonder if they're aware of your your trajectory since that time. It would be interesting to, especially the guys that were questioning whether or not it was even you taking the photographs. It would be interesting to see what they make of it all. They make of it all now.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think most of them seen the evolution, and as far as I know, they all enjoy seeing it because they saw it from the very, very beginning, the early stages where I didn't even know what photography was. So, I mean, some of them, we sit down when we talk about it. Um, but, a lot of them, they have moved, their life went on, and, and things just keep moving.
Yeah, yeah, that's the way it goes. That is the way it goes. Um, Sticking with the Players Tribune for a little bit, and your role has evolved from not just as you're not just a photographer, but you assume the role as creative director. Do I have that right? What does that entail? Like, can you give me like a broad picture of what that looks like from start to finish on a project?
Sure, sure. Um, it's complicated because I ended up doing many different things at Players Tribune. Um, so Players Tribune has different parts of it, and basically, I'm 99% involved with football. So everything that has to do with football kind of, I'm always ended up involved, right? Not 100% of the time, but most of the time. So besides shooting, um, I will sometimes, a lot of times, bringing in athletes. Um, I help the team vet the athletes that we want, who we're going after, why, what's the story. How can we get you somebody? A lot of the times I'll go after and talk and do the athletes relation. Another thing that I do is I ended up interviewing a lot of these athletes, especially when it's in Portuguese. Um, I also help the writers um, to sort of get the feel of whatever the interview was when it's in a different language. Because sometimes just looking at a transcript or a translation, it doesn't give you the full context. So I sit down with them, I try to explain how they were feeling about things and things like that, just so we can nail it. And also goes into looking, you know, into some of the photography, of course. No? A lot of times when I'm on set, I will help the video crew with lighting, framing, things like that. Then after, sometimes with ideas. Um, it's kind of all over the place. It's easier to say the things that I don't do than the things that I actually do.
This kind of ties back into something you mentioned earlier on about there always being something else. It's not just the shooting. There's then the processing and all of this kind of thing. And now you've got these roles that you take on outside of the shooting. So they're combining all of that. There is very, very little downtime, right? Even in the moments where you are traveling to and from, or you've got hours, between a shoot ending and maybe a flight somewhere else, that kind of thing, where normally you would take the opportunity to, not you, but where one would take the opportunity to switch off for a little bit and recharge. How or when are you able to do that?
Recharge?
Yeah, and just kind of like find some moments for yourself so that you can perform to the kind of peak of your ability in these demanding situations. I know maybe it doesn't feel demanding because it's a natural environment for you now, but the expectations on results will be high, right? And
Yeah.
you need you need recharging, you need some kind of reset, I guess, like we all do between things to keep the mind right and keep the body right, all that kind of thing. How do you do that? Where do you fit that in? Like, or are you just shoveling back a hell of a lot of coffee and just getting your head down and getting on with it?
I think I'm sabotaging myself as we speak. Because I don't do much recharging. But I think it's an interesting question and maybe an interesting answer. One thing that I must do to be able to perform is sleep. Um, I need at least 8 hours of sleep, and sometimes there are weeks where I will sleep 3 hours one day, then five the other, then four the other, and then I have to sleep like 10. I know it doesn't work like that, that you kind of, you know, do the math and it evens out to be 8 hours a night. But all I'm trying to say is, uh, if I have a decent 8 to 9 hours of sleep, it recharges me. Um, but there are times where, between one trip and another, if I can have a day to like do nothing and just lay down and, just watch something random on TV or on YouTube or something that's not related to work or even like just something funny or things like that. And another thing that I do that it's not really resting, but it kind of helps the mind is playing sports, uh, either football or foot volley. I try to do it a little bit or go to the gym. Um, every time when I travel, I try to go to the gym, which also helps with, between flights and things like that. It kind of grounds you a little bit. And another thing I do to help, which doesn't help me rest, but it just helps the mind, is I do personal projects, uh, photography again. But
Yeah.
at least it's something that I kind of enjoy doing it, and it kind of recharges me and relaxes me.
What does a personal project look like in general terms? Like you say, it's photography again. But how far removed is it from what you're doing on the day to day for it to feel like rest?
Hmm. So before, when I was building my portfolio, it was basically shooting for my portfolio. Um, and I would hear people talking about personal work, and I would not understand. I thought that what I was doing for my portfolio was personal work, and maybe it was. We don't need to define things so strictly. But before it was like, you know, uh, getting a model, putting together something, and just shooting what I wanted to shoot. You know, uh, there's a there's a big difference between going to a job and getting what the client wants you to shoot, and another thing is you going after what exactly you want to shoot. Um, so nowadays, for me, when I say personal work, 90% of the time is shooting for a project I have, that I call Futebol Raiz, which is football roots, where I shoot kids playing football on the streets, barefoot, just like just like how I played when I was a kid. So that's kind of what I like to do.
Why that subject matter specifically? Is it through nostalgia for your childhood, or more just an admiration of the aesthetic of that subject matter?
It's a mix of things. When I started, um, I had a couple things in mind. I wanted to relive those moments for sure. Um, I wanted to see what it would look like, um, to photograph the football that I used to play with the same eyes that photograph on the pitch, you know? So basically, sometimes I joke with the kids. I was with this camera and the same lens photographing Messi, and now I'm here photographing you. And and just getting that perspective. And the kids love, and I did it a few times, and I got hooked. It's just like when I saw that camera for the first time. I had no knowledge of why. I still don't know, but I just got hooked. And with this project, uh, it's just something that I did it, and I just had no expectation. but I enjoyed it so much that I just wanted to do more and more. So I've been shooting it for 8 years. Uh,
Wow.
and I did a few exhibitions, and hopefully soon the whole thing will become a book.
Amazing. 8 years worth of material. I imagine that's going to be a pretty heavy book. We're going to need a strong
Yeah,
coffee table for this one.
yeah. I made a prototype the other day, and I made it in an extra large format. So it's kind of, I don't know the measurements now. I think it's 14 by 20 something maybe inches. In
Yeah.
centimeters is it's 35 centimeters tall by 50 centimeters wide. It's pretty big. And I mean, I basically put together in one day to print it because I want to take to some meetings, and it felt good to look at it.
Yeah, that smile that's just appeared across your face suggests that you're very pleased with and
Yeah,
excited about the way that project's going.
yeah.
It's
So
coming from the
much.
heart, clearly.
Yeah, from the heart and with no expectations. That's
Do you think
the
do you think with a lack of expectation around it, it's enabled you to produce a more authentic body of work?
yeah. I think not the lack of expectation, but I think, I don't know if I can express myself properly, but yes, the lack of expectation, but I think it's more the mentality going in, you know? Um, the mentality I'm going in is to have fun. And whether I get the pictures or not doesn't matter. It matters if I'm having fun. And it's always an adventure, because it's rare nowadays to find kids playing football on the streets, especially with the aesthetics I'm looking for, barefoot, like really raw, like I used to play. So a lot of times I have to go to places that are more remote or they're less developed, and it's always an adventure. Um, and I noticed there were a few days where when I went in and I was more worried about getting good images than having fun, and I could tell the difference. It's funny.
Okay, so that was a learn. So you took that on board. You could actually tell the way. Wait, was it retrospectively when you are looking at the images compared to times you've shot without that expectation, or in the moment were you feeling
No, in the moment.
you were feeling
In
it in the
the
moment?
a little bit in the moment and mostly after the shoot, like right after, because I wasn't having fun. I was worried. I wanted to make sure that I got that image, and that's not like me. So I noticed right away. Usually I'm rather relaxed. I don't know why that day I was like, I put this expectation or whatever, but I've I took that. I think, if I learned from that, then it's all good. I mean, I still have beautiful images from that day, but the the whole point of it is to have fun. Is not to get great images. So that's why I was disappointed. But it's still like I feel like if I was there just to enjoy myself, the images could have been much better.
A lot of what you've just shared, reminds me of Senna. Have you ever watched it?
Yeah, a
where
couple of them.
he basically he's asked when he was. I mean, I don't know the exact quote, but he's asked during an interview when he was at his most happiest, or when he's enjoyed racing. At what point, what's his most enjoyable race, or something like that. And he references go-karting when he was younger. Oh no, sorry, he's asked who his uh, greatest opponent was, or something like this, and he names a guy, a British guy, who's not a Formula One driver, and he used to race him in go-karting when they were younger, before he made the leap up through into the elite end of racing. And he said because it was just racing, nothing else, just the pure joy of racing. And that was when he was at his most happiest, during his whole, that illustrious career. And it mirrors perfectly what you've just said. Not that you're unhappy when you're on set, quite the opposite, of course, but there's the connection to something a lot more pure when you are not focused on an outcome for a client or whatever. You are purely there to do what you enjoy doing, which is shooting.
Yeah.
And shooting something you love.
This is the freedom, I think I can totally see that in even a lot of professional athletes, where, they, I mean, I play football. I don't know if you played football when you were younger, but I loved playing on the streets barefoot. But when I have to go to the club and like practice and you have to pass the ball whenever the manager wanted, and it's not the same. It's not as fun. It's not as free. It's not as enjoyable. It starts to feel like a job in a way, And nothing against the job, but I feel like I'm still a kid that just wants to play and do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you are, which is a fantastic thing. It's great that you're holding on to those purities in adult life, right? Because it can often strip those things away from us very easily. And the fact that you still play, the fact that you have this project that connects you not only to the purer side of the game, but also your youth, keeps you in touch with your youth, because it reminds you of, it connects you. It's a conduit to being at home, right? It's a conduit to your time in Brazil. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing that you've made. That it's a beautiful thing that you've maintained that, despite the pressures and commitments and sacrifices and everything else that come with a career as an international photographer.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much secret to it, it's almost selfish, of me to do that because um, it's it's something that I do for myself, I'm not taking a day off for myself, but I'm going there for myself, Although, of course, the kids love it. I give them the photos. They love it. Sometimes some of the kids will cry when I leave because I try to really engage with them, and I play with them and I give them attention. And but at the end of the day, um, it's something that kind of gives me a lot of joy, and kind of selfishly I want to do it more.
Well, I would argue that it's not entirely selfish because of the experience you're giving to those boys as well. So as much as you may think you're doing it for yourself and nourishing your own creativity and keeping your mindset healthy and things like this, you're also bringing a lot of joy and excitement to the kids that are playing football on the streets. So there's an act of service buried in amongst what you call selfishness. So everybody wins.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, when I say selfishly, I mean in a good way, you know. Um, because I also like to, when the kids see the pictures and I see their faces, it's kind of cool, it makes me feel good. Because these are kids, they're just playing on the streets, a lot of times nobody's paying attention to them. And when I come in with a camera and I'm giving them all the attention and they see the images, and I feel like I almost feel like I have a gift, that I can to be doing that for them. And when they look at the images, like you see in their eyes, like they start seeing themselves differently. Um, but when I say selfishly, it's just because, I just want to do more of it. Like, not that I'm not doing that for the kids, but I'm doing for them as much as I'm doing for me.
Yeah, doing more of what you love and doing it as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sam, that feels like a very organic place to wrap this up, and I can let you carry on with one of your rare days off so that you can plug in, chill out and watch something or whatever it is you're going to find time to do today. But I really appreciate you sparing the time to chat with me today um, and again, yeah, for just kind of persevering with the scheduling and things like that. Have you seen The Adventures of Walter Mitty with Ben Stiller and Sean Penn by any chance?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like Sean Penn in this instance, where he's on a project to capture a rare snow leopard, and he doesn't photograph it; he just watches. I feel like I'm Sean Penn and you're the snow leopard, and I'm just gonna leave this here and savor the moment. A rare sighting of Sam Robles there.
That's fun, man. No, thanks for the invitation. Thanks for your time. Thanks for not giving up on me. I really appreciate it. Sometimes I can be a little disorganized as well. But this has been really fun. It's good to you ask some questions that made me really think, and bring things into perspective. So I really want to watch it in a few days, just to sort of think through some of the things that you asked and some of the things that I answered. It's good.
Yeah, I'm glad you took something from it, mate. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Nice one. I'll let you crack on, and I'll speak to you soon.
Sounds great, Joe. Talk to you soon.
Take it easy, mate.
Thanks for
Bye, mate.
everything. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
it. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.